Hello, welcome to Spotlight, a warm glow of creativity in the chill of a Manx spring.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
This evening, would you like to give stand-up comedy a go? We hear how a young comedian who's recently relocated here is hoping to get a new stand-up scene going on the island. A new online publication from Culture Van and sees a classic work on Manx Dance see the light again and be readily available to a new generation of dancers. And a former Manx Bard looks to nature for his first published collection. Remember, do get in touch with any creative artistic endeavours you may be involved in, planning, hoping to create, or would really like to put in the spotlight. Be they poetic, well, you know the rest of the list. Email spotlight@manxradio.com or me, howardkane@manxradio.com. They both come to me, to be honest. Use either. But I'd love to hear from you. So it has to be said, compared to music, drama, dance, poetry and other performance art forms, comedy has always had a fairly low profile on the island. I know that there's been some excellent things from time to time, but not a genuine large regular scene. However, that might be about to change. A young comedian who's just relocated to the Isle of Man is keen to reinvigorate and grow a stand-up comedy scene on the island. Zeki Jeffries moved to the Isle of Man a month or two back from Sydney, Australia, which it has to be said is quite the move. When he called by for a chat, I began by asking him, why the Isle of Man?
My grandfather's from here originally, yeah, so that's how I knew about it. That's how I'd heard of it. I've always had like childhood stories from my grandparents, and so that's why I wanted to move, because they always said that it was a magical place, and yeah.
Oh, it is. I think a wet place, wet but magical as well. And comedy is your thing, so you've got a background in stand-up or comedic writing, or what is it?
Yeah, so I just started doing comedy just around Sydney a couple of years ago, and I just absolutely loved it. Just in pubs and clubs around Sydney, just performing with, I guess, the stand-up comedy scene there. I've done a few like in Melbourne and a few in Brisbane as well, but just stand-up comedy.
And what's the comedy scene like there?
The comedy scene, it's definitely big, it's buzzing. You have so many comedians and not as much audience. Like, you would go to like open mic nights in Sydney and there would be 20 comedians and 3 audience members.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So there's plenty of work going on around there. I don't know whether you can make a living out of it doing that, but there's plenty going on.
Yeah, there's lots and lots of work. I don't think you could make a living out of it. Most of the people are just doing it for fun and doing it as a hobby, but it's a big community. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
And did you actually write your own material for this?
Yeah, I always wrote my own material. It was just about, like, I liked going into sort of storytelling and focusing on topics. It was just about talking about what I wanted to talk about and making jokes about it, I think. Yeah, I always loved writing. Was always my favorite part of it. Was just being able to express myself, I think, through comedy.
So you're hoping to transport that over here then? Because there has been a comedy scene occasionally on the Isle of Man, although I have to say generally it's not been a massive scene. Are you hoping maybe to see if you can invigorate the local comedy scene?
I am, absolutely. That's my mission at the moment. I want to find comedians on the Isle of Man, and when I say comedians, I mean anyone with any vague interest in comedy, or anyone who has ever thought about, thought something in their head and thought, oh, that's funny, or just wants to express themselves in a way. And I think that's what I'm trying to find, and that's why I'm trying to sort of build a community of comics that are willing to give it a go, give it a try, and just get up there. Yeah. So
yeah, get up there. I mean, that is the crucial part, isn't it? It's getting up there, because I think particularly for stand-up, you do really need sort of balls of steel, don't you? You've got to get up. You have your own material, which normally, as you say, I think a lot of comedians will have written themselves. They'll be confident in it. They'll be able to perform it maybe. But then you have to do that. You have to get up there, stand in front of an audience, no matter what size it is, and do your stuff. It's nerve-wracking, yes, no?
Yes, it's definitely very nerve-wracking, but it's also, I think it's good to build resilience, if that makes sense. Like, it's a good skill to be able to stand in front of people, and even if it doesn't go badly, just to go get away from it and be like, yeah, that was good anyway, and you learned something from it anyway. And I think another important thing to sort of keep in mind is the fact that because there isn't much of a comedy scene, it's going to be super sort of supportive at the moment, especially starting out, because there's not heaps of people doing it, so everyone's just going to be building each other up, trying to like just support each other in starting out. Yeah.
So short term then, sort of setting up, what are your plans? What are you hoping to sort of see or wanting to organise in the sort of imminent future, as it were? Are we looking at workshops? Are we looking at, like I said, open mic nights, or how are you seeing this panning out?
So I've pretty much started, or I've set up a club. It's called Gary Comedy Club, and it's going to be committed to just organising any opportunities for stand-up comedians on the Isle of Man. And so I'm trying to, at the moment, to get sort of a base of comics. That's my main goal, is just to get people that are interested in stand-up comedy. And in the short term, the first gig that we have set up it's on the 31st of May. It's going to be a very, very sort of laid-back, casual night that's perfect for people that are starting out. It's at a farm, Nikalo Big Farm. And we're going to do a workshop a week beforehand on the 25th. And the workshop's just going to be a really great opportunity to just meet everyone, to either write sets or perform your set and get some advice from it, bounce off comedians. And just, yeah. So I think that's what we're starting out with. After that, I'm hoping to just expand it further, keep doing workshops, keep doing meetups with other comedians, and then also always keep doing open mic nights. So all of the nights are always going to be open mic, because I want new people getting up. I want new people starting it. And yeah, that's my plan.
And where will the workshops be, in the same place? Or?
Yeah, same place, Nikalo Big Farm.
And whereabouts is that for those who don't know?
It's just on the outskirts of Peel in Patrick.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Great. So is that where you're based, or is that...
It is, yeah.
Perfect. You're going to have a little spot then. So the all-important thing, of course, then, how do people get in contact with either with you or with the club if they're hearing this and they are interested and think, yeah, I want to go along? What's the best way to get in contact?
So you can get in contact. Instagram is what I'm using the most to sort of get the club going. So it's just, the Instagram is Gary Comedy Club at IOM. And you can get in contact with me. It's zeki.jeffries@gmail.com, and just send me an email just ask about, trying to get involved and anything. Yeah.
Marvellous. And how are you spelling that, Gary Comedy Club? How's that spelled?
Gearey.
Gearey. There we go. Well, listen, sounds a great idea. It'd be lovely to see something. So, hopefully if we speak again in, 6 months or whatever time, we could see a much more vibrant scene. Are you hoping or if you have much response so far? You're saying sort of set up and already got a gig organised. Has been much interest so far?
There's been a little bit. There's definitely been a lot of audience interest. What I'm struggling with is trying to get the performer interest. And I think that as I said before, it's hard when you're not seeing people doing it. It's hard when you don't have like that experience of it, and I think there's people that are holding back because of that. But I think just what I really want to stress is that it's just going to be a really good starting spot, a really an open place to start out, and just a nice skill to have. Yeah.
And all styles welcome, because I know that obviously there's different styles of comedians.
Yeah.
Sort of just very, very different styles. But there's no holds barred, as it were.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Even like musical comedy or sketch comedy, anything that you want, just give it a try. Yeah.
Terrific. Just give us those addresses again, then, for people who want to get in contact.
Zeki.jeffries@gmail.com and Gary Comedy Club IOM on Instagram.
Sounds good, doesn't it? We'll keep in touch with Zeki to see what happens. If you've ever fancied giving comedy a go, now is your chance. Obviously, get in touch with Zeki. I'll just spell out those contact addresses so you can get to the right place, as he might be the only Zeki on the Isle of Man. Certainly in Peel, I would think. So it's Zeki, ZEKI.Jeffries, JEFFRIES @gmail.com. And the Gary Comedy Club is GEAREY, Gary Comedy Club, all one word, @gmail.com. And the same again, Gary Comedy, GEAREY Comedy Club, Isle of Man, on Insta. He'd love to hear from you and would be fascinated to hear how it goes. Get laughing. The Flitter Dance, one of the tunes recorded in 1983 for Rinken and Vannon, or the Dancers of Man, the go-to reference book then and indeed now for Manx dancers of any generation. Now, after 40 years, the publication is going to be made freely available online for anyone to access, ensuring these traditional Manx dances will be performed in their original form for years to come, and of course help develop Manx dance, new Manx dances for new generations. Culture Van's Dr. Chloe Woolley told me more.
Rinkin and Vannon, or Dancers of Man, first came out in 1983, and it was brought about by the dance group Boku and Fanny, who were very active at the time.
I remember them, yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
And they worked with Mona Douglas, who of course everyone's heard of in relation to Manx music and dance. And through the organisation Slag and Tie, they brought out this guidebook, instructions for lots of popular Manx dancers.
Or was it Mona who sort of collected these dances together?
She had, yes. Back in the 1920s, she went out and collected a lot of these dancers, and she also had a notebook that was from her great-grandfather, Philip Quayle, from Glentrammon. And so she used her notation of those dancers and revived them with Leighton Stowell earlier in the 20th century, and also with the Manx Folk Dance Society. But later on, in the 70s and 80s, she worked with Boku and Fanny, who were a new group of enthusiastic folk dancers. And they worked together over a few years to produce this user-friendly guide to Manx dancing.
So do we know how old some of these dances are? Would some of these go back sort of hundreds of years, or would they go back to, 18th, 19th, 17th centuries, whatever?
It's difficult to say, really, because Mona Douglas was pretty much the first person to really notate and try and revive the dancers. So before that, really, we've only got descriptions of perhaps like events like barn dances, like the Melia. They would talk about a circular dance or whatever like that. But during the first part of the 20th century, she made great efforts to revive these dancers. She worked with the Folk Dance Society in London as well, and published some of the dances with the composer Arnold Foster. So he wrote like piano accompaniments for them, and through the Manx Folk Dance Society, some of them were performed at the in London in 1951. So it's before that, there's not a lot of evidence. It's more accounts, really. And like she said, T. Brown mentions some of the dancing taking place, and there'll be stuff in old newspapers and things.
So how many dancers are there? Because I suppose, as a non-dancer myself, quite literally, a terrible dancer, I know ones like, the Hop Tune and everyone knows, and even I go out and enjoy doing a Hunt the Wren every year, but there's sort of dances that would have been performed at all times of the year. That's
right, yeah. Well, Rinkin and Vannon brings most of those together. Certainly there's been more dances written since, sort of composed in the idiom. But Rinkin and Vannon's got 28 dances in it. There was another book brought out a couple of years earlier by the Manx Folk Dance Society, which had Leighton Stowell's dances in that. And I think that might have been about 20 dancers. So that's, as well as the modern dancers, we're probably talking, 70, 80 dancers out there, and ever growing with events such as the Manx Folk Awards. We're getting new dances written every year.
And I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? There are new dances. We think about new songs or prose or poetry, but yes, for people who are into the country dancing, into the Manx dancing, that there are still new dances being added to this sort of canon, as it were.
There are, yes. Well, Joan Cowell, formerly from the Manx Folk Dance Society, she brought out a book just last year, actually, and that was a collection of dances that they'd written in the past few decades. So that's also a resource that's out there for anyone to take and perform those dances. And here at Culture Van, we do try and encourage people to learn through videos as well. So we've got Grania Jochen doing step-by-step, literally, instruction videos for us. And we try and provide dance accompaniments and put on workshops from time to time. In Crinic last year, Rachel Clarkson, who's a dancer from the Folk Dance Society, she led a workshop of her original dancers, which was really good. It was some of them had been taken up. This putting Rinken and Vannon out again as a digital copy, so it's a PDF book, but we've also got, we've digitised the cassette, which was from 1986. So that's got all of the dance accompaniments there as well. So that's
John Caneen, did I read? Or?
That's right. So John Caneen recorded it, but it features like most of the leading Manx musicians at that time in 1986. So we've got like Bob Carswell, Sharon Corlett, who else? We've got Crystal Jerry,
Of course,
yes, Claire Gilgallen singing, Julian Edwards, David Collister, Heather Cubley, David Fisher, Annie Kissack.
You can download the music, listen to the music and sort of, play along or dance along to it, not play along to it. And also you can just access, the steps are all there. So if you've never done it before, it's sort of a step-by-step guide.
Yes, that's right. If you come to manxmusic.com, and you'll be able to easily find the Rinken and Vannon resource. We've also got a growing number of these instructional videos as well. And there's lots of research out there as well. There's a thesis by Cinzia Yates, which has a history of Manx dancing, and that's accessible on manxmusic.com. And there's lots of interesting historical evidence behind them. So, it's hopefully going to be a really useful resource for everyone around the world who's interested in Manx dancing.
Finally this week, former Manx Bard Owen Atkinson is no stranger to this programme, having been a regular contributor during his bardic year. Now firmly in his post-bardic phase, though still of course a bard, he's just released a collection of poems under the title Nature is Real and So Am I, which he told me was the first such collection under his own name.
So I've had different bits of poetry in competitions and in collections here and there, but this is my very own creation. Yes.
and the theme is what your sort of links with nature and exploring nature around the Isle of Man and such like.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's all about kind of finding myself in the natural world and like relating to the landscape around me and thinking about the Isle of Man, my place within it, and how being in nature makes me feel at peace, really, which I think is something that a lot of Manx people can hopefully relate to.
And how do you find now with your poetry, because obviously it's been a year or two since you were bard, how do you think that sort of, if at all, has affected your poetry?
Oh, it's definitely motivated me a lot. So a few of the poems in this book are from kind of that era, I would say. I've kind of picked some of the best poetry, I hope, that I've written kind of since I began, really. And some of that poetry came from when I was the bard, and there were so many great opportunities that I had to write poetry thanks to being the bard, getting invited to events, writing things specifically for certain places on the island, certain events that were happening. So it's definitely helped me connect with the island more in my poetry as well. I mean, I when I first started writing, I was living away, and then coming back to the island kind of kick-started my poetry writing in a different way. And I think being the bard definitely powered that through, for sure.
Now, you can write about whatever you want and very much concentrate on topics which do inspire you as a poet and as an artist. But on the other hand, nor is the sort of the pressure to write in the same way. So do you think it makes that easier or harder to actually sort of produce the poetry?
I think it's just different, to be honest. I mean, there's definitely less direct motivation, right? But I think in a sense, being the bard kind of opened me up to different things that I could be writing about. And yes, there were certain things that I wouldn't necessarily have thought, I'm going to go to this place and read in front of these people, or I'm going to come to this event. But doing so has kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I think that a lot of that I've carried through to my writing now. But I'm definitely not quite as prolific as I was when I was a bard, because I had to be. But yeah, we're still churning it out. I still find inspiration in lots of different places. And some of those places I found thanks to being the bard. So that's wonderful.
It is out now, obviously. Where can people actually obtain a copy?
So I've got it in a few little shops on the island. So there's copies in Bridge Bookshop, that's in Ramsey and in Port Erin. There's copies in Mother Teas in Laxey, or you can go to my site directly to buy it, and that is fenella-publishing.sumupstore.com, or all the details are on my social media. If you just search for Owen Atkinson, you'll find me. I'm shouting from the rooftops every chance I can get about about the book, so I'm sure it won't be hard to find.
It's terrific. You've got a copy in your hands there. Can you choose one you can read for us today?
Absolutely. So I was trying to remember if this is one that I had read before, and I couldn't remember because time is an illusion, and I don't know how long ago it was that I was reading poetry in here before, but it seems appropriate for the month of May. This is a poem called Evilden, and it's about that's Manx for like May, summer's eve, I guess, and it's about the beginning of summer and kind of embracing the changing of the seasons, which is filling me with a lot of life and joy right now, and hopefully that comes across. The poem is called Evilden. Summer sun, winter moon, ice melts and flowers bloom. Frozen white, metallic blue, sinewed silver, the fading grey-black of an overcast night as beads of ice form on sharpened grass. Then, oh so suddenly, blood orange bursts forth, yellow ochre and flushed fuchsia follow, bronze-flecked freckles speckled over rose-blushed cheeks. Sun breaks through a cloud-tinged pink, orange, yellow. Mists part, then dissipate into sparkling haze. The heat comes slowly, then all at once. In 8.5 minutes, the light from that ball of burning gas will be here, with us, thawing out the prickled purple heather. First comes primrose, then daffodil, then bluebells, white bells. I urge myself not to forget the shining glow of emerald green grass, and the sweet coconut scent of freshly budding gorse. But I can already see the solstice to come. The drawing in of any night brings a shiver. Why can't the day just go on? Why can't the summer last forever? Summer sun, winter moon, ice melts and flowers bloom. Let's enjoy the uphill climb. An amber sunrise lifts the gaze, eyes open, necks stretched upwards. We have to remember that without night there is no day. Without ice there is no fire. Elements balance. The tides of time will ebb and flow. The summer crashes in on the glistening crest of a soaring wave, and recedes just as quickly. Without winter there is no summer. We say good night to the moon, welcome the sun, and hearts aflutter, breath drawn in, with the world on pause, we hold this fleeting juncture, grasp tightly onto the rays of ever-shifting sunlight, and bask in their momentary glow.
First volume out there now. It's the first volume. Do you feel, obviously you're still writing, you're still, I say, not as, perhaps, as copious as you were when you were Bard, but do you feel that this could be the first of, several volumes over the years?
I surely hope so. And actually, I will say, so the Arts Council are very kind to give me some money towards printing this book and paying for the illustrations, which are done by Gronya Sheard. Very beautiful cover and illustrations throughout the book. And they actually, within that grant, I got money for a second book. So it will be coming out later on this year. So there is definitely more to come. We haven't got a title yet, but we have several of the poems, and we're working on more. So, watch this space, I guess. We never stop writing, never stop feeling inspired.
Lovely stuff from Owen, as ever. Look out for Volume 2 before the year is out. Great stuff. That's about it for this week. Don't forget, if you want to hear anything again, go to manxradio.com, download the Spotlight podcast, listen where and when you want. Why not try it whilst out hammering your garden furniture to the decking, ready for the light zephyrs of the great Manx summer. See you next week. Until then, look after yourselves, and whatever you're doing, be creative about it. Cheerio.